Hello, welcome back to BLENDERSUSHI live noding. In the next few live noding videos, I'm thinking to do a series of animation locomotion study, whether it's locomotion for creatures like snakes probably, or perhaps an insects with a few legs, or maybe insects with more legs, kind of like the centipede, or maybe a spider, which is more like a crab. I think the spider has 4 legs or 3 legs. Maybe ants have 4 legs, um, or maybe like a crab. There's a lot of animals to study, or whether, or it's probably something like a human character with 2 legs, which is a bipedal, and maybe creatures like a horse, maybe with 4 legs. So it's I'll see which one. I think we're gonna study each one of them eventually, all of them. Today I will start with a human, but with a human I'm trying to kind of focusing on the hips and the shoulder. So this is the hip, the shoulder of human, and this is the hips, and we're gonna start with a just like a generic walk cycle. And human, as we know, can be divided into a few different sexual orientations, whether it's male, female, or a combination. And humans can also be like an adult and an old man, and but all this complexity probably for to do like a procedural animations, because I'm gonna do like a I will investigate the motion using animation nodes or Sverchok. So the complexity, like the details such as, is it the person walking is an old person or a young person, or whether it has more characteristic, it's not too much important. What's important is probably the basic mechanical motions. If we watch the hips of this person, for example, we can see like there's a little bit of bounce, and then basically but the motion is basically like a swing kind of motions. I sort of have the idea about human motion from based from my experience in animating. Basically, I think with the hip, it needs to do more or less like a kind of like a saw kind of motion, but it's like if you imagine this is like a hips, it's like a block, and it has the center points. It's gonna do this swing kind of motions, but it's also gonna be doing the side by side and all kind of complex rotation. But it's basically it's gonna move like if you see these blocks, and it's doing kind of number 8 kind of motion, kind of like that. And it's definitely gonna involve some like sine functions. So lots of locomotions of any living creatures is using this kind of sine wave kind of motion, or circular. So that's important. I think everything moves in a arc, although sometimes the arc can go if it's our feet, the arcs can go a little bit more like that. But anyway, we're just gonna focus on the hips for now. I will be using both, I think, Sverchok and animation nodes. Although for today I might use Sverchok, because let's say if I'm animating characters like with multiple legs, I want to be able to duplicate the legs and see the preview. Locomotion, let's try locomotion hip. This is going to be the title for this live noding. Switch to compositing. Let's actually review a little bit about animating using procedurally using animation nodes and Sverchok. Let's review that a little bit. So if we have like Suzanne, I just reset the position. So Suzanne is now the center of the world. If we are animating using animation nodes, we will be using object matrix output. Select the objects, and then with the matrix here we can use compose matrix, and then translate Suzanne, rotate Suzanne, or scale. In reality, I could just use animation nodes for this bipedal character for the hip. I will try to use Sverchok as well, because once it's involving a lot of matrix, let's say, the reason being also with Sverchok it's a little bit faster. With animation nodes it can get slow. Let me quickly create matrix list, combine matrix list, or mix matrix list. Excuse me. Okay, compose, combine matrices. So we kind of need to worry about this kind of thing in animation nodes. If let's say if I want to orbit the monkey around like if we have like imaginary sun, we want to rotate the monkey, we need to use one of these combine matrices, or there's another thing, matrix. Let's combine, compose, it's a list. It might be the create matrix list, not the combine matrix list, it's a create matrix list. Let's zero this out for now. Yeah, I think this might be the wrong one. Don't use get list element. So we want to, let's say we want to push the monkey that way, and we want to be able to rotate it. This is basically what we need to do. We're kind of mixing the matrix. So the first one is translate the monkey in X, and then rotate the monkey based on that new pivot position. So this is how you would animate it using animation nodes. It's all in the object level. With Sverchok, it's a little bit different. You're kind of animating inside the objects. But the most important will be the animation, the motion itself. So if I create objects in and get the monkey head and view the monkey, we're gonna see the monkey is kind of reset in the center, because we are not bringing in the matrix of this object. So this is gonna be just like a proxy or the source objects, and we're gonna be animating this guy. And the way to do it, there are two ways. You either use the matrix in and actually animating the objects itself, if I bake it out, you see there's the matrix, or you can use the matrix apply, and you use something like the compose, see the matrix in, and if you want to have like a multiple operation, you have like a, you're gonna do it like a piggyback of nodes like this. Let's try like a move the monkey to the side, and let's look at the results. So I reset the monkey head. I'm not using that matrix. I'm just gonna use the matrix apply, and I move the monkey to the side, like four units to the side, and then continue on. I'm gonna rotate the monkey. The rotation is slightly different from animation nodes one. Here we basically just provide, let's say we want to rotate the monkey in the z-axis, so I give it like one of these axes, z-axis, and then plug it to rotations, and then we give the angle. The angle is in degree, I think, by default, and plug this into the final, and then now we are kind of rotating the monkey using the degree angle. So this is now what exactly the same like what we have here with animation nodes. But if I'm not wrong, you see that I'm applying the transformations to the objects. So if I bake the object, it's now 0, 0, 0. We kind of we actually moving the vertices of the objects, not the actual object transformations. I believe if we're actually doing it to them using the matrix, we can no, we cannot plug it back into the matrix. If I plug it, it's no, I think it's the wrong thing. That's kind of the method I want to use. Yeah, anyway, because I think Sverchok is a little bit faster in this case, so I will use Sverchok. But either way, you know, it's gonna work. Oh, I delete the monkey. Let's wait a few seconds. Bring back the monkey. Get selection. Show the monkey. Okay, it's gonna work. Don't worry about it. Let's start with a. Let me close this first. Let's start with a block of cube that's gonna be representing our hip, like a human hip. Save as locomotion 2. We're gonna use box and use a fewer node, fewer draw. Verts and polygon. Okay, we're gonna start by making this box more like a plank to represent the hips. For that, I will use matrix apply just the vertices here, vectors, and then the matrix. We use matrix in and vector in to the scale, and plug this there. You see now we can control the scale. I'm gonna make this blank longer in X and then shorter in Z, something like that. So that's gonna be our hips. That's gonna do a swing kind of motion. So the next thing we do is I will do the kind of this kind of motion, like just like a swing with this as a pivot. So for that I will be using a sine. So I will have another matrix apply, plug this in, plug that in, new matrix in node. Oops, I just accidentally create that. Just duplicate that matrix in. This should be in the scale. Okay, location, scale, rotation. We're gonna do the rotations, and the rotation is gonna be in the y-axis. So let's do that. Y-axis rotations, and the angle we're gonna plug in the input. It's gonna be a sine wave that's based on the function. And this is our frame. We know that the frame goes from 1 until the end of the frame. Plug into the sine wave, it's gonna become like a value that goes ups and down between minus and 1 and 1. Let's have a look real quick. Yeah, I think that should work. Okay, now it's doing swing. It's just a really fast swing kind of motion, just like maybe just 1 degree to minus 1 degree. I will slow down these motions. The correct way is I think one step is 1 second. I think the whole walk cycle is maybe it takes around 2 seconds, so it's 48 frames. I try not to be too strict with the numbers here. I just want to make sure it looks correct. So sine, a frame goes into the sine and it goes into the angle. We want to map the range. So by default, sine goes between minus 1 and 1, and then we want to make it maybe now it becomes between minus 10 and 10. So maybe that's a hips of a person walking really fast. If we want to make it slow, we want to slow it down, we use multiplier. So I'll make it 0.5, half a speed. So that's still pretty fast. 0.2. So that's now more like a walk cycle. 1,000, 2,000, 1,000, 2,000. So that's about right. Actually, 0.25 probably. More like it. 0.2 is a person that's walking kind of really a bit slow. So walk in the park. But yeah, we have that kind of motions. So that's okay. That's the first one, which is the rotations in the y-axis. The next one we want to do is the side-by-side motion, and we can use again the matrix apply. So this first one scaling, second one rotation. rotation Y, and the next one is gonna be the side by side, and for that we're gonna use the location, and we still gonna use this multiplier and sine, but plug it to the locations. Oops, but we need to use the vector in. We're gonna do the side-by-side motion in the X, and let's check it out right now. So it's doing this kind of motion. It's not very natural. There's something a little bit off about this. We might need to offset the frame. Let's save it again. We might need to offset the frame, and for that we're gonna use add. So maybe offset it few frames. I don't know how many frames, but until it looks kind of correct. And now it's kind of doing like a number 8 kind of motion. That's almost kind of right. There's math behind it because it's mechanical, a little bit mechanical, but really in here I kind of I'm gonna use my eyes and then kind of check the timing. If the motion looks right, it's very likely it's okay. So that's kind of about right. So it's doing a side by side now. So that's our side by side. We also need to do now the rotations in the z-axis. If you watch it from the top, it needs to be doing rotations like that. This is in the z. So again, we're gonna use another matrix apply, then use another matrix in, and rotations now in the z-axis, and the angle can be from this guy. Plug that in. Now we're doing it in the 10-degree as well. So this is, so the character, if this is a human character, it must be a really happy human character. It does a lot of side by side. Must be this character must have a lot of character must have like a really big hips. Let's look at it from the front. Orthographic. I don't know. I think I have a kind of wanted to draw this also. I think I'm gonna check it with drawing. I think at this stage the character is about to lift the leg. I don't know. I might be wrong. So I'll just test it. If this is a leg, the character is doing that, and now so it's doing that over there, and then at this point the legs must be down. I haven't done much of the 2D kind of animations, maybe unlike the Pepe Daniel from Pepperland. He did a lot of 2D animations for character walking and doing acting or that sort of things. Because I was originally I like 2D kind of animations, like a drawing, hand drawn, and it's like Daniel says, for 2D it's really simple. You just draw and then it's gonna be done. With 3D, I realized that we need to learn about rigging, we need to learn about frame by frame animations, and now I'm trying to do it procedurally, which is kind of like a mechanical, more mechanical type of animations using a lot of expression and math and calculations. Why am I making my life more complex? I don't know. And I try to analyze this using 2D drawings. Probably in reality, all kind of hips doing the different things, because when the hips doing this, of course the legs is now kind of pushing. The hips doing that because the legs, these legs must be pushing the hips that way, and then this one maybe get left behind, and then if it's doing the opposite, these legs must be doing that, and this is get left behind. Maybe this is more correct. So that's, and then that's. If it's carried. So that's, now it's in that positions, and then this guy must be moving forward, and then this one. And then do the next. Yeah, I guess that's almost kind of right. It might also do a rotation in the one more angle. So it's a side by side, and then it's doing this number 8 thing in the z-axis. Maybe I can kind of push this. So minus 18 and 18. This character is doing a big walk, a big hip motion. Maybe it should be doing also ups and down. Ups and down is always very important when animating a character. Let's add another one. So ups and down, we're gonna use the locations, which is this guy, 1, 2, 3, 4. Plug this into the locations. It's gonna be the ups and down. This is not the X, it should be the Z. Plug in the time. Now let's see. We're kind of offsetting. I wonder if actually this guy is doing it or not. Maybe it's too small. I'm gonna use the map range. Now, oh, actually I have not plugged this in. Okay, now it's totally wrong. Let's use -5 and 5. It's too much of hip ups and down. Now it's a bit limpy. I must have done something wrong. Maybe with the ups and down I need to do it twice. Need to multiply it by 8.4. So now it's almost kind of correct. Almost, but it's like too much. -1 and -1 and 1. Almost correct. Let's look at it in the perspective. Yeah, almost correct. I double the speed in the sine, so it's like it's doing twice. I can make it like more. So it's really happy character doing double bounce. The good thing about procedural doing it, because even though this is all numbers and it's all doing this kind of complexity, you can focus on the motion. Once you understand all this, you know that's all just a sine wave doing its own thing. But you can see the double bounce. A happy character doing this. Normal character is just doing that. Kind of ups and down. Even though in reality it's probably not 100% sine wave. If character is heavy or light, you have kind of the weighting. The weighting is probably harder to do in procedurally, but there must be a math behind it as well. So the function is not just it's not like a perfect sine wave. It's something else. So I wonder if this is if I can play around with the offset. Interestingly, 12 frame offset is kind of right. Maybe around between 10 and 12. So now it's character doing its thing. It feels might be slightly off. It's doing that. I might need to offset this as well. Maybe no. Maybe I don't need to do that. But the way to test it, of course, if we apply, let's use the monkey or a teapot, and rotate the teapot. Let's reset the teapot and then rotate it in the Z -90 and apply location rotation scale. Now if I apply the motions to this teapot, let's see how it looks. So instead of the box, I will use the object in. Get selection, get the teapot, and then just plug in the vertices there, and then polygon into that guy, and reset the scale. Now we have the teapot and it should be animating. So we have this walking teapot. Feels slightly slower. I have a feeling that with the bounce, ups and down bounce, um, I need to make it more pronounced with a instead of just sine wave. Sorry, 0 to 1. I'm gonna make it absolute. Actually, keep the sign and use absolute right here. Plug it into the Z. Seems to be doing the double kind of bounce there. Now it's like kind of like doing 4 kind of bounce. Well, anyway, it's a happy teapot. Happy dancing teapot. Almost a little bit like a kind of like a skipping, but it's not really. It's more like kind of dancing with one leg. Kind of interested to see if we actually apply it to a character that looks like this. The famous character with just 2 legs and maybe an eye. Too much bounce, I think. 0.4. It's also like too much bounce. I wonder why. 0.1. 0.8. Maybe I shouldn't be doing the absolute. No, actually I should do 0.2. I think I did the absolute over there. It's kind of wrong. I should do the absolutes on the feet itself, not the hip. The hip it should be doing the ups and down, but it doesn't have the bounce. So hip should be. Yeah, I guess that's pretty good hip motions. In reality, of course, you don't just have a hips, but you actually have a legs, and the legs doing a lot of motions here, and for the legs we're gonna be using in 3D. We will need to use maybe IK or bendy bones, but IK is more likely. So a lot of considerations that I think when I was thinking to do this procedurally, because eventually the motion should be that's probably the hip motion is gonna be a joint, right? A single joint. I don't know. Maybe it's a B bones. Maybe single joints for hips, and then you have this the shoulder, the hands doing pendulum, you have the head, and we have another, the legs, and we have to consider is it's going to be IK or FK. Yeah, all those sort of things. Yeah, we will see. Basically, maybe the next video is gonna be the motion of a simpler character, maybe a snake or a millipede, multiple legs. That's what that's actually what the procedural animation is good for. It's for multiple legs, for multiple kind of objects animations, and you can repeat it and you can offset it. If you have a single character like this, it doesn't seem much, but of course we can make, let's say we want to make the Z doing more rotations, we can always go back and come back and then, okay, Z more rotations, minus 25 to 5. Now, because it's teapot, is happy character, maybe, yeah, it's a swaying kind of teapot. It seems to be doing it. Maybe make it faster swing. No, it's wrong. Need to offset the motions. I think there's also motions that's in the x-axis, I think, actually. So the character is doing a swaying back and forth, because if the character is walking, I think like that, it's gonna sway back and forth in the hips. So a lot of motions, almost in all rotations. So anyway, if we really want, I think we can kind of duplicate the motions really easily, should be. Let's say if I use a matrix in, this is gonna be the advantage of doing this. If I use line in the locations, duplicate the teapot a few times. Now they are all animating the same way, although it's kind of slow, and it will get slower and slower if you have many of this teapot. We can always bake this as alembic, so it's gonna be a lot faster that way. So keep it a single objects probably. I will try the bake now. It might crash or doing strange thing, but we will see. Let's plug in the vector there. Plug in the polygon there. Hide that. Now we have the objects. I wonder if we bake it, whether this is gonna work or not. Let's see the motions. The motion will cycle at around 32 frames, so it's kind of it's pretty quick wall cycle. Yeah, 32. Let's save this. I think I might need to use this subdivision surface and then, oops, no, displace modifier and zero it out. and file, export Alembic 32 frame, selected object only, and export Alembic. Good thing it didn't crash. Okay, good. File new, and file, import Alembic. Grab our, whoops, not the Taurus. File, import Alembic desktop, locomotion, hip, and good. We have our teapot, and now it should be real time, and we can have multiple of these objects, and should be all good and real time. We can offset it, and we can also look the motions, and you can see this is still kind of real time. A lot of more teapot doing a walk. It's actually more like a hip motions. If it's a walk, it needs a bounce. But anyway, that's a quick look at the hip motions and procedurally doing it using Sverchok, and also we learn how to bake it and duplicate it. Yeah, I guess that's pretty much it for this live noding. I'll see you in the next video. Thanks again for tuning in and subscribing to this channel.